وطن الكرامة، منبر الحق وكرامة الوطن.
Hello, welcome to Watan al-Karama News Service. It is 9 p.m. our time for top stories and we start with local developments in Libya. Parliament Speaker Agila Saleh Guider participating in the funeral of Parliament member Mona Al-Ghithi and her nephew in Al-Quba City. He said that after the burial of Al-Ghithi and her nephew that she was an example of a good moral and glory in her work tasks as a Parliament member. He decided or added that she committed to her responsibilities during the official sessions and consultative meetings of Parliament and exert great efforts to treat the wounded inside and outside Libya, pointing out that she died on the way to Tobruk to attend and share her fellow Parliament members for discussing current affairs. Prime Minister Abdullah Al-Thani decided to reduce the number of staff in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs diplomatic missions abroad by 20%. He issued a decision to refer to the remaining 80% to the rest of government institutions in the state, noting that this ministerial decision was based on recommendation made by the Foreign Minister Muhammad Adayeri in order to preserve public funds and the developments of functional works within the ministry. Foreign Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Muhammad Adayeri asked UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to authorize Al-Mahdi Al-Majrubi, the new Libyan Deputy Ambassador to UN, to do his job as head of the Libyan mission in New York after the temporary suspension of Al-Dabashi. This came in a letter sent by Adayeri to the UN, assuming that the sovereign decision will not affect the cooperation and communication between Libyan mission and the UN. This step comes after less than 2 weeks since the suspension of Al-Dabashi. UN envoy to Libya Martin Kobler said that he would make 4 demands to the National Unity Government in relation to Libyan women positions. The 4 demands include the need to be women's share in the National Unity Government by 30% and the establishment of a women empowerment unit as well as possible, in addition to the need to represent the women appropriately in all subcommittee for political dialogue and the presence of coordinator of women's and affairs with the National Unity Government. Terrorist Daesh group slaughtered 5 young Libyans in the country yard of Binjawad town, which were following the Security Committee and other military destinations because of their cooperation with the armed forces. Meanwhile, one official of Abu Najm village said that elements of the terrorist Daesh group stopped a bus coming from the city of Al-Khoms with 6 Egyptians on board who were on their way to their home country, adding that the 6 Egyptians were taken away to an unknown location. Egyptian fatwa body says the Daesh terrorist group seeks expansion in Libya and seeks to control the oil-rich areas. In a report, Al-Fatwa confirmed that control of the oil-rich areas in Libya is a vital goal for Daesh, especially after the oil areas control lost in Syria and Iraq, stressing that turning Libya into a stronghold for Daesh in West Africa represents a serious challenge and an urgent threat for Libya's neighboring country, which requires regional action to counter the terrorist groups in Sirte and cities that fall under Daesh control. Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi held an emergency meeting of ministers and heads of sovereign military to discuss the Libyan situation. The meeting, which held in the government palace, included the foreign, inter and defense ministers and the secretary of the presidency, in addition to presence of the chief of staff as well as intelligence chief and the head of the police service. Fire trucks, ambulances and security forces rushed to the scene of a blast in Turkey's capital Istanbul today in the heart of the historic Sultan Hamid tourist district. The Istanbul governor's office said 10 people were killed and 15 wounded, but gave no further details. Some local media reports said a suicide bomber may have been responsible. The Istanbul governor's office said the authorities were investigating the type of explosive used and who might have been responsible for the attack. The blast comes just over a year after a female suicide bomber blew himself or herself up at a police station for tourists of the same square, killing one officer and wounding another. Officials said that attack was initially claimed by a far-left group, but later turned out to have been perpetrated by a woman with a suspected terrorist militant links. Kurdish, leftist and terrorist militants have all carried out attacks in Turkey in the past. Turkey has also become a target for terrorist Daesh group. Britain's Ministry of Defence (MOD) released a video which it said showed British airstrike conducted targeting terrorist Daesh group in Umr oil field of eastern Syria. The airstrikes targeted mobile cranes that were being used by extremist Daesh group to repair oil fields previously damaged by coalition airstrikes in the area, a statement from the MOD said. The statement also announced that an aircraft flew the 1,000 sortie over Iraq and Syria since operations against terrorist Daesh group began in October 2014. In total, the United States and its allies conducted 23 strikes against Daesh in Iraq and Syria on Monday, the coalition leading the operation said in a statement. The US-led coalition said in a statement released today that 4 strikes in 3 cities in Syria wounded 2 fighters, hit a tactical unit and destroyed 2 terrorist Daesh group buildings in Iraq. 19 strikes in 9 different cities destroyed command centers, several fighting positions and vehicles, among other targets. Swedish Foreign Minister Margot Wallström called on today for an investigation to determine if Israel was guilty of extrajudicial killing of Palestinians during the recent violence, their local media reported. It's vital that there is a thorough, credible investigation into these deaths in order to clarify and bring about possible accountability, Wallström said during a parliamentary debate, according to news agency TT. The comments were the latest in a series of statements by Wallström that have urged Israeli authorities. Ties between Sweden and Israel nosedived after Sweden recognized the Palestine state shortly after Wallström's center-left Social Democrats won general elections in 2014. Rights groups have accused Israel of using excessive force to quell the unrest. A U.S. State Department official said on Tuesday Western sanctions on Moscow are intended to exert long-term pressure on Russia and not to push it over the economic cliff. EU and U.S. restrictions imposed on Moscow in 2014 over the Ukraine conflict shaved about 1.5% of Russian economic output in 2015, the official said, citing data from the International Monetary Fund. Russian President Vladimir Putin was quoted as telling Germany's Bild newspaper that sanctions are severely harming Russia, although he also noted a bigger impact from global oil oversupply that is weakening energy prices. The effect of falling world oil prices were far greater, said the official, meaning that Russia's economy shrank 3.8% in 2015. Sanctions on Russia's banking, energy and defense sectors imposed from July 2014 are part of the West's efforts to pressure Russia to help at the crisis in the eastern Ukraine, which was killed more than 9,000 people since April 2014. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.watanilkarama.tv. Thanks very much for being with us. My greeting, Rانيا البليدى.